Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Okay, hang on. She wanted you to move a car that's not even yours, and then blocks your car and tells you to move the car you don't even own? Or else she'll call the cops? I'm weak. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Karen is mad for a parking spot. So this happened Tuesday and it absolutely blew my mind. Every Tuesday morning I go to the library. That's when the new releases come out and everyone rushes to try and get what they want. So library's packed in the morning on this day. Well, this chance encounter happened when I was leaving. I was in the parking lot walking towards my car when this lady in a big SUV rounds the corner going way too fast. I mean, squealing tires, deja vu music playing in the background, almost flattens me. I'm practically hugging a car to avoid getting hit by her. And she slams on brakes as she's a car length past me. She starts to back up. I'm thinking to myself, she's just going to apologize or something, right? Well, it was definitely something, but not to apologize. She rolls down her window and asks me if I'm leaving and if she can have my parking spot. So I say sure and start to walk past her vehicle towards my car, which happens to be parked in the back. She's backing up beside me and then slams the car into park and starts yelling out the window. WTF are you doing? I need you to move your car now. I just keep walking and go to my car. She peels out and speeds around the entire parking lot, slamming on her brakes right behind my car, blocking me in the parking spot. She gets out of her vehicle and runs up to me, yelling and cursing the entire way. She starts yelling at me, I can have you arrested for loitering in a parking lot. You need to leave now. Now, mind you, I'm almost 30 and 3 times the size of this lady at least. I'm trying to keep my cool at this point. I tell her, I'd like to leave, but you're blocking me in. I point at her SUV and open the door to my car to show her, thinking maybe that dim light bulb will pop on at any minute. But no, this pisses her off more and she starts to yell even more. She starts to point at the car I was clinging to for safety earlier. No, I need you to move that car, the one that's closer to the front. I am literally dumbfounded at this point. I look at my keys and then back at her. That isn't my car, I can't move it. This lady is just freaking out and drops that one stupid line, "You're wasting our time," as she points to her kids in the back seat. Kids I never noticed because I was trying not to die. "You're making us late, and now my son," people really use their kids as an excuse, "won't get the movie he wants, and you're ruining his day." At this point, I'm still holding the movies I got, and she sees them. She asks me what movies I have and that she should have let them pay for her wasted time. Then she threatened to call the cops if I don't, on the grounds I've robbed her child. I'm beyond past the point of having enough, but I can't go anywhere. She still has me blocked in, so I say, don't worry about calling the police, I got it. I pull out my phone and begin dialing. She stood there quiet, which was amazing to me, and I talked on the phone and got them to send an officer. He was there in minutes. Seemed like hours because this lady and I just stared at each other the entire time. No words, just stood there and stared. Officer shows up, gets our statements. She really thought she was in the right. It wasn't her trying to bluff. She really thought I wronged her. The officer told me what she said and what was going on. He issued her a ticket and told her to move her vehicle afterwards. She left, but not in a manner you would think when a cop is present. She sped off. He told me he was writing that down in his report as well and was getting the video from the library's cameras if he can. He even laughed and said it was short of a miracle I didn't hit her. Towards the end, he gave me a card, got my information, and told me he'd let me know what's going to happen next if charges are brought against her as I'm a witness. And that was the end of it. And our second story. Airplane etiquette breached. Background. My grandfather is turning 85 this weekend, so I'm flying from Seattle to New Jersey on a red-eye so I can go to his birthday party and see my extended family. Normally, I fly Alaska and book my own flights, always choosing seats in emptier rows in the back of the plane, but since my dad generously bought my ticket home for me this time, I ended up on a United flight. Thankfully, I'm neither a doctor nor a guitar. Unfortunately, I ended up in the aisle seat of the worst possible row. the one directly in front of the emergency exit row. This row never reclines because in case there's an emergency evacuation of the plane, they don't want to have a bunch of chairs leaned back blocking the exit in any way. Frustratingly, I only discovered this about 30 minutes into the 5-hour flight after spending a couple of minutes fiddling with the impotent recline button. To make matters slightly more infuriating, the flight was cranked up to an uncomfortable warm temperature to lull the passengers to sleep. Lastly, it's worth mentioning that I'm 6'3" and about 180 pounds. And while I'm not fat, I do have fairly broad shoulders, so I don't fit into airplane seats perfectly. In summation, the flight was already mildly uncomfortable before the story starts in earnest. The slight. I was seated next to a tiny girl about my age, mid-20s. When we sat down and settled in, we exchanged the traditional traveler's nod of recognition, then proceeded to politely ignore each other by escaping into my music and her Sudoku. Fast forward about 30 minutes. Shortly after discovering that we were in the nightmare row, I noticed the armrest between me and the middle seat was raised to about 45 degrees. Unsure of how it got there, I lowered it and went back to stewing over how uncomfortable this flight was shaping up to be. A minute later, I noticed it was up to the same spot again. I realized that my neighbor probably wanted it up, so I raised it all the way up, only for her to instantly bring it back to its halfway up position. She then told me matter-of-factly that she put it there so that my shoulder didn't extend past my seat. Now, I'm no savage. I recognize that the middle seat is entitled to the use of the 2 armrests to make up for being boxed in, but this misuse of the armrest felt a bit over the top. I recognize that some people might disagree with me on this point, but in my opinion, positioning the armrest to wall out your neighbors is a jerk move. You get the surface of the armrest, not the armrest, and all the airspace above and around it. What's more, this girl didn't even have the courtesy to give me a heads up that I was encroaching on her space or even acknowledge what she was doing until the 3rd time she did it. It felt like my own personal Crimea. And it, in addition to the other mild inconveniences of the flight, had me feeling some type of way. Revenge. I'm not one for direct confrontation with strangers in potentially awkward scenarios. I contemplated releasing some silent farts in her direction, but the potential for friendly fire and collateral damage to innocent passengers was far too high. Instead, I waited until we landed and started to deplane to raise the armrest all the way and start to type this post. She's already standing up in her seat, antsy to get off the plane, clearly irritated that I'm still buckled in and tapping away with my headphones in. I plan on letting a couple of rows behind us get out before I let her out. Build an armrest wall? Feel the wrath of row 15's aisle gatekeeper. Postscript. I'm sorry for subjecting you to my revenge, window seat girl. The quest for revenge is not always a righteous one. From now on, every time someone invades my space, I'll refer to it as my personal Crimea. And our last story. Trustee lien foreclosure deed was sold to a group that's saying they now own the property and trying to evict us. So ever since we bought our house 6 years ago, we've had issues with our HOA. Extremely high dues with 0 amenities in our neighborhood. Initially, we had issues with them because we were told when buying our house, the annual HOA dues were built into our mortgage and would be paid by the mortgage company. This was incorrect, and only the first year was paid by them. Not sure if we misunderstood or were told wrong. This caused problems in our 2nd and 3rd year as we missed payments. Once informed, we paid in full and made everything whole with the HOA. Then we started getting the violations from the HOA. We fixed them as they came in and tried to stay in contact with the company managing the HOA that sent out fines and whatnot. Then nothing for a year or two. In the past year, we received a letter in the mail saying we owe them $32,000 in violations with itemized daily fines that didn't add up to $32,000, but instead added up to $34,650. My wife tried to contact the managing company several times and left messages, sent emails, and one letter and never heard anything back from them or was able to speak to anyone. A week or two later, we get another itemized fine for violations for $8,000, and then a couple of days after that, another one for $3,000. All of these threaten within them to put a lien on our property unless we paid in full with no deadline date mentioned. We try to contact them again. Every time we talk to the members of the HOA, they say we have to go through the managing company. We never hear anything back from them, and we don't receive anything else in the mail about any of this until this past Friday, about a year after the threats to place a lien. The text of the letter is below, removing identifying info. Our company has purchased the property located at our address from our HOA's foreclosure sale. Enclosed, you'll find a copy of the deed which conveys the property to our company from the trustee for the Homeowners Association, filed in the County Register of Deeds on 1/30/2020. We usually give the previous owner 10 days to vacate the property, but considering the current pandemic situation, we're not doing it, and we want to work out an arrangement with you. So please contact us to let us know your plan and intention. The attached document in their letter is titled as Trustee Lien Foreclosure Deed. In case it matters, our mortgage is in good standing and paid every month, and it's paid up to date. So I have a ton of questions. Do they have an actual claim to the property? The Trustee Lien Foreclosure Deed says it was purchased for $8,000. Our initial mortgage was worth $250,000. It seems crazy that they could purchase our property out from under us for a fraction of the cost and tell us we have to leave. Did they legally have to inform us of any part of these proceedings so we could have a chance to defend ourselves or pay off the ridiculous fines? We didn't receive any form of contact from them after the threats to place a lien until this most recent letter trying to evict us. We're contacting a lawyer now. This just seems so crazy. I really can't understand what's going on. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.